Welcome back to the studio, everybody. This is Bobby. Continuing my year of the villains, I've got this Anakin Skywalker at the turn. Just slaughtered a bunch of younglings. He's on Mustafar, about to fight Obi-Wan, and it's getting real. And yeah, the statue's pretty awesome. It's from StarWars3D Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below. That's all the intro we need here, so let's get into it. I do love seeing a box of fresh parts. Let's get this over to the sanding enclosure. As always, the first step is to remove any remaining supports. Just use your nippers, get in there, clip those little suckers out, and then sand down any support marks where you can. And I began with his torso by pulling the wiring through and getting his left arm attached. To complete the bottom half of his robe, I'm going to first protect my looking balls, then add a little bit of super glue to the edges here. These keys where the resin printed really thin, they actually kind of snapped in some places, so it wasn't exactly secure. I decided to use a little bit of resin to reinforce some of those areas. All right, let's get this seam hidden. I'm going to use this plastic wood. This stuff is really great. It dries really fast. It doesn't shrink, and that makes it perfect for filling gaps. So I'm going to mix up some water and some plastic wood to a yogurt-like consistency, and then use a piece of paper towel and a cotton swab to wipe away the excess. I like to check the electrical as I go. Nothing worse than getting to the end and something not work, and then it's hard to figure out why, and it's all assembled. That's just the worst. So yeah, check your connections as you go. And the first step here is at the base, getting the battery pack installed. I wanted to first just make sure my filament was working and make sure the battery pack worked. Before installing the filament, how about a quick tip on how to straighten out a curvy lightsaber? First things first, make sure you got some protection. So this saber is not cured, so it's still got some flexibility to it, and using that flexibility and a little bit of gravity and some UV light, we're gonna straighten this bad boy back out. And so basically you wanna kind of feel where the saber starts to bend and use the weight of the other end to kind of counteract that. And once you kind of figure out how it needs to be straightened, then using your UV torch, you can lock it into position. Once you're satisfied with the straightness of the lightsaber, you can use a little bit of a plastic tack to mount the saber upright and put it back in the cure box for a couple minutes. So it's at this point that I decided that the extra 1.5 inches or so on the end of the lightsaber where the LED filament can't reach is pretty useless. So I decided to chop it right off. And I'm actually really glad I did. This is a really good technique for lightsabers whenever I get to the end of it. So I'm definitely going to be doing them like this from now on. And after a quick run to my local hobby town for some flexible braided wire, I went ahead and soldered the LED filament to the connectors. And I used a unshielded copper wire for the part that is going to be visible on the inside of the saber. I still haven't found a good way to hide that yet, but it's very minimal interruption, so it's not so bad. And of course, make sure you test it before you do anything else. Then I pulled the filament through the end of the lightsaber and fished the wiring through his hand to where it's going to connect inside the model. And of course, one more test just to make sure all that tugging didn't pull something loose. And it looks like we're all good. To finish off the lightsaber, I'm going to cap off the end here with some craft resin. This is a transparent jewelry resin, and it's perfect for this because of its consistency. So first things first, make sure you protect your looking balls. And I like to put a little bit in the end just to kind of seal it off so it's a little level. I'll go ahead and cure that. And then I'm going to put a perfectly round drop right on the top there and that's going to give a nice dome kind of shape to the end of the lightsaber. It really just, it's a nice, easy way to finish off the lightsaber. Definitely going to be doing this for my lightsabers moving forward. I really like how it looks. To finish hiding the seam in his robe, I'm going to use a small bead of resin right along the line where the plastic wood is, and that's just going to help kind of fill the gap up flush with the model itself. And after a quick sanding, it will all blend in, and that seam should be totally gone. All right, let's get everything mounted and ready for priming. My go-to primer is this Vallejo Black Surface Primer. While waiting for the primed parts to dry, I want to use this blue alcohol ink on the lightsaber so that when it's not turned on, it still has a nice blue to it. I'm going to use this Green Stuff World chrome metal. This one is specifically designed to go through the airbrush, and I think I finally figured it out. So you want to kind of overspray a little bit. You kind of want to let it build up some layers without it getting runny. That's the trick. You don't want to get it sprayed to the point that it runs, so taking a little break between coats. But spraying on multiple coats will kind of pile on those little silver flakes, and it does have a nice reflectivity. Here it is under my desk lights here, and you can see it's kicking back some of the room ambient light and ambient color. It's got a nice shiny reflection to it. Yeah, I'm happy with how this turned out. To base coat his pantaloons, I'm going to use this mahogany brown from Vallejo. The source material has his pants kind of a reddish kind of brown, so I didn't want to go too red, and this mahogany brown's got a nice warmth to it. And I'm going to use this chocolate brown from Vallejo on his outermost robe, his cloak, I guess, with the hood and everything. I'm going to be going in here pretty heavily with some wash later, so it should be a nice dark brown when I'm done with it. Going to work on the base now. I'm painting the lava with an off-white to kind of give it its base level of intensity. I'm going to use this ash gray from Army Painter to kind of give the base a overall kind of spray. This is where the red is going to kind of pick up, and I don't want the red to get muddy with the black, so having a lighter tone will help it kind of keep its intensity. Once I was satisfied with the red, I replaced the black in the rocks with a little gloss black and some magma orange to start to warm the lava up a little bit. And I'm going to use this glowing inferno from Army Painter to push those warmer spots just a little bit warmer. So start to brighten everything up here and really start to get this lava look to set in. I'm going to use the glowing inferno again, but this time as a wash, maybe a little thicker than a wash, but I want to use it in a little more of a controlled manner with a brush on these the hottest spots of the lava. And you can just kind of build it up layer after layer with this kind of tint, and it helps intensify the color of the hot spots in the lava. Can't forget about these smoke tendril things. I'm going to give these a coat of the ash gray. I'm pretty happy with how that lava looks. So yeah, let's get this station cleaned up and ready for a base coat montage. Ooh, that was a lot. All right, Here's some off-white. I'm going to dry brush onto the smoke stuff coming out of the base here. And I'm using a brush to apply the primer on the lightsaber to black out all the transparent parts that I don't want to be transparent. Next, I'm going to use this wash from Vallejo on the blue-gray parts. I'm going to spread this pretty evenly so that it kind of has a nice darkening effect. I didn't want it to be black, but I didn't want it to be as bright as this gray either. So using an even coat of wash kind of gives it a nice darker tone. And then I'm going to use the wash kind of in the lower recesses of the folds in his pants to kind of accentuate the depth of the wrinkles and stuff. I'm also using the wash on the cloak, kind of following the geometry and giving it some nice shading in the depths of the folds. Now let's add some Tamiya panel liner to the chrome robot hand in the little depths, kind of where the little mechanical gears are. And this will just help break up some of that chrome, give it a little separation in here and little knuckles and fingers and stuff. For the skin tone, I like to start with Brown Rose from Vallejo. And then some Barbarian Flesh from Army Painter. And finally, a basic skin tone from Vallejo just to brighten it up a little bit. Before doing the wash on the skin tone, I like to paint the hair. In this case, it's a flat brown, and I think having the hair painted just helps with the contrast against the skin. And as you're moving forward with the washes, it's a little easier to judge the tone with something to kind of contrast against. While waiting for that to dry, let's get some Vallejo chrome on the lightsaber and his little belt pieces here. With the skin tone dried and varnished, I'm going to use this flat blue to mix up a little bit of wash here, and that's going to be the first layer of wash on the skin tone. It's going to cool everything off and kind of give the impression of blood flowing under the skin. After that's dried and sealed, I'm going to use the Pure Red from Army Painter to do the same thing. Although this time I'm going to be a little more prescriptive with it and kind of just put the red wash down in the recesses and along his scar on the side of his face and on his lips. I really just want to kind of give spots of warmth on the skin at this point. Approaching the end now, I'm going to use a little bit of off-white in his eyes. To give him those Sith eyes, I'm using some red in his irises and then yellow on the innermost part. And then a dry brush of brown sand on his hair. And to wrap up the paint, I'm going to apply some gloss varnish to the outer robes, his greaves, his lips, and his eyes. I installed the battery pack into the base with a little bit of hot glue. I added some quick connectors to the wires in the lower half of the body and made sure to give those a test before I wrap things up. The saber wires needed to be a little bit smaller, so no connectors here. I had to solder it all together, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I had plenty of extra wire there, and after a quick connection, and I gave it a test. This is where the fun begins. And that's another villain statue complete. I'd like to thank Star Wars 3D Patreon for this awesome model, and thank you for hanging out, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you made it this far, you would probably like some of the other videos on my channel, so make sure you check those out. Hit that like and subscribe, and you will be notified when I am online streaming. I stream all my paint sessions, and it's a good time to just jump in the chat and tell me some jokes or ask me some questions and just generally hang out. So until then, as always, take it easy.